Welcome to the Couch Scouts podcast. We provide league-winning analysis, advice, and tools to help you dominate your league and build a dynasty. Scout, draft, win. Here's your host, Matt Cooper.
Welcome to the Couch Scouts podcast. I am your host, Matt Cooper. With me is my good friend, Jake Thomason. What's up, Jake?
Not much. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. So if you haven't met Jake yet, this is his first time making an appearance on the podcast, but he is one of our staff members. Jake is our lead film room editor for our Devi and IDP film room over at the Couch Scouts. He also helps me with a lot of tech stuff behind the scenes. Basically, anytime I have a spreadsheet question, I'm in Jake's DMs and he's helping me out. So I know you know your stuff too. You know some ball. You play a lot of Dynasty yourself. So I'm excited to have you on the show. And tonight's a little bit of a special episode. You may be used to seeing us do a live stream on Tuesday and it's Saturday night. But of course, it's draft weekend. So we got to get in here and we're doing our very first post-NFL draft rookie mock. So literally, it's so fresh. The day 3 ended an hour ago, and we know a lot of you guys have rookie drafts that are starting tonight, tomorrow morning. For all the degenerates out there, some of them maybe Monday, but most of them are happening within the next week. And if you're like me, your head's kind of spinning. Like I'm adjusting all my rankings. Like, man, this is a lot of new information to take in a very short amount of time. So I think doing a mock draft is going to help us to really digest all of that and see where would we take them in a real situation. So we have a mock draft that has already started in Sleeper. I'm going to put it up on the screen right now. And we've got basically 12 guys from the Discord, including myself and Jake. And so we are going to be making these picks. Garrett, if you could mute the Sleeper thing so it's not beeping every time somebody makes a pick. Appreciate it, man. Thank you to Garrett, by the way. Garrett's in the background running the tech side of things. So I'm on the clock. Let me read what we got here. We got Genty 101. That's no surprises there. Travis Hunter 1-2. I'm all on board with that. Hampton at 3. I think that's going to be pretty chalk. The tough decision, I think, at 4 is between Tet McMillan and Cam Ward, but it went Tet McMillan, Travion Henderson. So for me, it's a pretty easy call. I'm taking Cam Ward here at the 1-5. And we're going to throw it over to Genji on the clock. Jake, what do you think of the draft so far? Any surprises?
No, I think everything's been pretty par for the course. I was hoping Hunter would slip to me at 1-3, but it looks like he went 1-2. So kind of makes my decision at the third pick easy with Hampton. Was surprised to see Henderson go before Ward, but I guess that's a flavor pick there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably within the same tier for me. So I'm not going to necessarily disagree too much with the Henderson pick there. You know, super flex, getting the 101 at quarterback in a super flex league at the 1-6 feels like a great value. Like I love that pick at the 1-6. Ward at 1-5 is insane, but it was 1-6. So sorry, I read the chat. Michael Anthony said Ward at 1-5 is insane. I was like, wait, am I at 1-5? No. So we went Colston Loveland at the 1-7. This is a 1.5 tight end premium, by the way. So 1.5 tight end premium. We got Sam on the clock at the 1-8. But I like that little Loveland pick there. You're a Bears fan. Tell me what you think of the Colston Loveland pick.
The pick for the Bears or the pick here? Two different thoughts.
Both. Why don't I hear both? We got a minute.
So for the Bears picking Loveland, I love the pick. Think he fits great for the scheme, what Ben Johnson wants to do. Called him Sam Laporta light. Here, it's going to be a crowded fantasy room with Odunze, DJ Moore. Now you got Luther Burden, Loveland, Komet, and we don't know what they're going to do with Swift out of the backfield. So there's a lot of mouths to feed. Caleb hasn't really shown that he can feed or produce more than 2 fantasy relevant wide receivers. So I think you're banking on the upside here, and maybe 2-3 years, Loveland will be a dominant player. But I think you're going to have to temper expectations for the first year.
Yeah, so we got a question in the chat about Loveland or Warren. Which one is the tight end one? And for me, I lean Loveland like Genji did here. I think I had them super close in my film grade. They're both really good tight end prospects. I do think, even though it's a really crowded room, I like that Bears landing spot better than I liked it for Warren going to the Colts. Like, Anthony Richardson is a huge question mark. Downs is a good player. Pittman is a good player. So it's close. They're not crazy far apart for me, but I'm going to lean Loveland there. I thought that was a good pick from Genji in a tight end premium league. And then Psalm went with Judkins at the 1-8. So Quinn Salmon from the Discord, he is a very active regular member of the Discord. He took Quinshon Judkins at the 1-8, and I think that's a good value. He goes early round 2 to the Browns. That feels like a slam dunk pick. Do you agree with that?
I think you can't miss there. I mean, he's coming in, probably taking that Nick Chubb role. They show they want to run the ball early and often. I think Judkins is just going to hammer it.
Yeah, so they did end up going with Dylan Sampson in round 4, which I think is a nice. They complement each other well. Sampson's more of a change of pace, smaller, can catch passes, more explosive, more elusive. So a little bit of a thunder and lightning there. Sampson going there is great for the Browns. Maybe limits Judkins' upside a little bit, but I still really like the pick there at the 1-8. I think, it was either Judkins or Warren for me there, or Ibuka. We haven't talked about Ibuka yet, and so Warren does go next. So Hunter Darling takes Warren at the 1-9, and I'm totally good with that pick. I like Tyler Warren. We just talked about him. Neither tight end got an ideal landing spot, but they're still elite tight end prospects. They still went in the first round of the NFL draft. It's a tight end premium league, so I'm great with those picks there. And Joshua is on the clock here at the 1-10. You like where would you take Ibuka here?
Wow, right
okay.
there.
Wow, bang bang. So I guess Lewis must have set himself a cue and auto drafted RJ Harvey. Oh boy, we need a Shedeur Sanders at 112. I think that was an auto pick. We need to, Garrett, can you go back and remove that pick? Surely he didn't mean to do that. But yeah, Ibuka at the 110 is a huge value in my opinion. I know, the Buccaneers have a crowded wide receiver room now. They re-signed Godwin long-term. Mike Evans is still there, but he's such a good player. That offense knows how to use a power slot. Both Godwin and Evans are a little bit on the older side. It feels a little bit like JSN rookie year going into a crowded room, and you got to be patient with him. But if you're patient, it'll pay off.
Yeah, I think that's him going to Tampa Bay might have puzzled some, but I think 2 years down the line, maybe next year, you're going to be looking at a very viable fantasy producer. Him in either Godwin role, you said the power slot, and then maybe they use him on some outside alignment. Mike Evans is turning 31, I believe, or he's 31 now. So his best years are behind him.
Yeah, for sure. So RJ Harvey here at the 111. RJ Harvey is, that's high, right? Like, I had a 3rd round grade on him pre-draft because he's 24. He's going to turn 25 as a rookie. Like, he's a good player, but probably more of a, okay. Andy Kroll says, come on now. He starts within 2 years. Says he meant to take Sanders. Says Watson is trash. All right. Okay. That's probably not going to happen in most of your rookie drafts. But if that's who he meant to pick, we will roll with it. So he goes Shedeur Sanders at the 112. So we got 2 spicy ones here, RJ Harvey and Shedeur Sanders. I don't think I would take either of them quite that high. Definitely wouldn't take Sanders that high. What do you think about the Harvey pick? We'll start there.
Yeah, I think Harvey's going to be a name that's going to be bumped up the draft board simply because he's going to the Broncos. There's a need there. But as far as talent-wise, what I've seen on film, I think you have better values in other places that you could take. Kind of surprised with Burden going before. So I'm going to make my pick. I think Matthew Golden here is a slam dunk. Kind of confusing wide receiver room in Green Bay, but I think his talent will shine. There's a lot of mouths to feed, but there's not a lot of talent in front of him that he can't outproduce.
Okay, yeah, so I'll catch everybody up. We were busy reacting to the RJ Harvey pick. Shador Sanders went 112. Luther Burden went 2-1. Cam Scattaboo went at the 2-2. Matthew Golden, you just took at the 2-3. And Garrett is on the clock at 2-4. I'm just going to give quick reactions. RJ Harvey, I love the spot. I love the draft capital. I still can't get on board with taking him that high at his age. And I just think I graded him as more of a flex option. But I get it. I get why people are going to love him. If that's going to be his ADP in rookie drafts, I'm probably not going to have a lot of shares. I love the Scattaboo pick. I'm still all in on it. I might have him more of like mid-second than early second, but I'm totally cool with him being taken there. I think he's a great player. I love the Giants landing spot. Luther Burden is an interesting one because it's such a crowded room. I still really like the talent. I'm okay with all those picks. Caleb Johnson at 2-4 makes a lot of sense. He goes to the Steelers, a player that we've not been as high on, but he gets good draft capital, goes to a room where he's the clear starter, should get a lot of volume. And then Jackson Dart. I would have taken Jackson Dart a good bit higher than this. I personally have Jackson Dart at 11 in my rankings. And so here he is in the middle of the second, and I had a first-round ranking on him. So if he had fallen to me, I would have had a tough choice because it's like I probably would have scooped up the value because Cam Ward and Jackson Dart, you don't necessarily need to draft both of them, but I don't think I could pass up on Dart at the 2-6 if it had fallen to me. So now I got 59 seconds on the clock, and I got to figure out who my next highest rated player is here. And I believe it is Jack Besh. So Jack Besh, he goes to the Las Vegas Raiders in the second round. I think it's a perfect fit for his style of play. I love the day 2 draft capital. I'm really high on the player. And so I think for me to get a second round Jack Besh here in the middle of the second round of a rookie draft, I'm all about that.
Agree with that. I got kind of walking through my decision making at 2-3. I'm high on Dart, but the issue is the current regime, who his coaches are now and what they could be. We've seen time and time again GMs and coaches getting fired, and that basically supplants whoever quarterback they drafted as a rookie.
Sure.
Pushes them out. So there's a little bit of pause there when I'm having a potential wide receiver 1 on their own team staring at me. So picking the upside in Golden versus maybe the safer play in Dart, but the future is kind of murky in New York, and that's what kind of gave me pause.
Yeah, I get it, man. I think the rushing upside is there. I think he's a good player. Obviously they drafted him to start. Maybe he saves Daboll's job. I don't know. Daboll, aside from they haven't given him anybody to work with at quarterback since he got to the Giants. Obviously he did a great job back in Buffalo with Josh Allen. So Genji at the 2-7 took Jaden Higgins, early second round pick to the Texans, which the Texans had an interesting draft. They basically got a Nico Collins clone in the second round and then a Christian Kirk clone in the third round, and they have both Nico Collins and Christian Kirk on their roster. So that's going to be an interesting wide receiver room to see shake out. Trey Harris at the Chargers at pick 2-8. I really like that value. I was debating between him and Besh at 2-6. I've got those guys really close in my rankings. Jalen Milroe at 2-9. He was the third round pick to the Seahawks. This is a little higher than I would have taken him personally. And then Tyler Shuck, the second round pick to the Saints, also higher than I would have taken him. I don't think I would touch either of those quarterbacks until round 3. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm kind of waiting for them. I think for both of them, Milroe's upside is the rushing ability, and Shove, I don't see much in him. I think he was drafted a little too high in the NFL draft and probably a little bit here. He's older than, what's his name, Rattler. So,
yeah, I think I'm sure the line of thinking here is you get this guy late second, and then he starts in a super flex league. They're hoping that you can flip him for a better pick later, would be my guess. Because I don't think most people think he's a long-term solution. but maybe he surprises us, or maybe Joshua's just really high on him. So Mason Taylor goes at the 211. I think he's probably going to go higher than this in most drafts in a tight end premium. I mean, he goes early second round to the Jets. They don't really have a tight end. He's got a path to being the second pass catcher on that team behind Garrett Wilson. I wasn't the highest on Mason Taylor's tape, and I've got him graded as more of an early third guy, but fall into the late second. For most people, they're going to consider that a value. And then at the 212, Andy takes Devin Neal. So Devin Neal, if you don't know, went round 6 to New Orleans. So I guess Andy is an F that draft capital kind of guy. I haven't interacted with Andy much in the Discord. He seems like he's got some strong opinions here. So this is probably not. I don't think you're going to see Devin Neal go till round 4 in most of your rookie drafts. But Andy takes Devin Neal here at the 212. And here at the 3-1 is Harold Fannin. I think in a tight end premium league. He goes to the Browns. He's got to wait his turn a little bit behind Njoku, but he's a good prospect. What do you think about this Harold Fannin pick here?
Yeah, I was hoping he'd fall to me at the 3.3 here. Really hoping for that upside. I think he gets to learn behind Njoku. And last year, the Browns were hurting for a tight end too. They like to deploy Njoku and Jordan Akins. Akins is 33 years old. A lot of attention went to Njoku, and so Akins got 3 receptions, 30 to 50 yards. And so I think Fannin will have some limited production right away once he learns the game, but definitely somebody I was looking at this pick. So 30 seconds left. I'm kind of between two, and I'm going to go with an upside
You go
pick.
ahead and focus on your pick here. Okay, so you took Kyle Williams. We'll react to the 3-2. So the 3-2 right before you was Bashal Tootin, and we'll react to that after you tell the people your thought process with this Kyle Williams pick.
Yeah, so I was between Kyle Williams and Elijah Arroyo here. The tight end premium kind of was what put me on Arroyo, going to Seattle, kind of being like the Fant Light or Fant 2.0. But with Kyle Williams, he's going to the Patriots, who desperately need playmakers, desperately need wide receivers. He can produce. He's got a brand new quarterback. Drake May is young. They're looking for a playmaker there. So I think he's got a separator. He's got a second gear that he can hit. And I think it's a really good fit for what they're trying to do in New England. So I'm going with the upside here.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I also, since we're talking about Kyle Williams, I need to correct something I said on yesterday's show when we were reacting to day 2. I said Kyle Williams could walk in and be the best wide receiver for the Patriots day 1. I forgot that they went and got Stephon Diggs. So when I said that, I was not trying to say Kyle Williams is better than Stephon Diggs. So just putting that out there. But yeah, I think that's a good pick here in the early 3rd round. Garrett goes with Pat Bryant, which, he's a little bit in that Marquise Colston kind of mold, and we've seen that Sean Payton knows how to use a player like that. He went round 3 to the Denver Broncos. I liked Pat Bryant's tape. He's not athletic at all. Like, he's really slow, but he's got great ball skills. He gets more after the catch than you feel like he should because he's so physical. He's got a nice release off the line, runs some pretty good routes. He has everything in his package that you want from an X receiver except athleticism. So yeah, he could be, a good you're gonna have to be patient, right? Because Sutton and Judy are there. He could be a good kind of heir apparent to Sutton, and maybe this year play a little bit of power slot. Cade takes Isaiah Bond at the 3-5, which Isaiah Bond went undrafted. So this is somebody that I would have had a late second pre-draft ranking on. But I mean, clearly it's off the field issues that led to him going undrafted. I'm not sure yet if he's going to, we'll see where he lands, if he lands somewhere as a UDFA, because I do think he's a talented player. I think this is a little higher than I would be comfortable taking him. But the talent's there, but the team, he's going to have no investment from whatever team he lands with. But I guess, if you're saying, hey, I think he's a really high talent and it's off the field stuff and NFL tends to forgive that, I can kind of get it, I guess. For me, I'm taking Elijah Arroyo here. I'm on the clock at the 3-6. I've got Elijah Arroyo ranked in the second round. So I have him as my 18th player, and I'm getting him here in the middle of the third. I think this is a huge value. He's incredibly athletic. The upside is huge. He's everything that you want in a receiving tight end. This is a tight end premium. He goes in the second round of the NFL draft, which is really great draft capital. You know, he goes to the Seahawks. There's definitely a path to him seeing a good amount of targets there. It's pretty much just him, Cup, and JSN as far as like guys that I think are fantasy relevant. So, and Cup's obviously on the older side. So I really like Arroyo. I'm probably going to be higher than consensus on him. If he's going to be here in the mid third, I'm going to be scooping up a bunch of shares.
Yeah, I think that's great value there. Like I said, I was thinking at the 3-3, but getting him at the 3-6, there's not too much talent left on the board that I would want to take a shot on. Like you said, he's only got a leapfrog Fant. I think him being drafted in the seconds kind of ends the whole AJ Barner experience, but he's not going to have too much to compete with targets, especially once Cup leaves. Who knows how much gas he has left in the tank. I think there's great value there.
Yeah, I mean, 6'5", 250, freakish speed and movement skills for that size. Showed at the Senior Bowl he could be a little bit more than a field stretcher. Like Miami mostly used him as a field stretcher, but at the Senior Bowl, he was routing guys up out in those practice drills. So I love the upside there for Arroyo. At the 3-7, Genji takes Trevor Etienne, one of my favorite running backs that I watched in this draft class. I think he's a really good player. He's so elusive, such good vision and patience. He can catch passes. Like he's, for a sub 200-pound back, he's just what you're looking for. He lands with Carolina. I think he's a nice complement to what Chuba Hubbard does as a grinder. And he gets early fourth-round draft capital. So I like the Trevor Etienne pick there. And then at 3-8 goes Jalen Knoll. Jalen Knoll's a player that was getting a ton of hype before the draft. He fell to round 3, and he falls to a murky Texans wide receiver room. But I think he's a talented player. I think he's got the upside to outperform this 3-8 selection. What do you think about Jalen Knoll now after the draft?
Yeah, I think he fell to probably the perfect spot for him. Christian Kirk is there, but he gets to learn a little bit behind there, but he also gets familiarity with his teammate, Jaden Higgins. He's got a quarterback who likes those quick little routes that he specializes in. So I think he's great value at the end of the third. They invested, I would say, an appropriate draft capital to draft him. So looking forward to seeing what he does.
Yeah, for sure. I like Jalen Knoll there. I mean, 3-8 is a value. And then at the 3-9, we go Gunnar Helm, tight end. He went in the fourth round, I think, to the Tennessee Titans. Him and Chig Okonkwo it's an interesting pairing because Chig's more of an undersized tweener that's going to be more used like a big slot, and Gunnar Helm's definitely a traditional inline tight end. Great ball skills. I think he's going to be a red zone target. He can really go up and high point balls and make the contested catch. So I don't think there's a ton of upside or juice with Gunnar Helm, but I do think he's going to be a guy that for a long time is a streamable, usable tight end, especially in tight end premium leagues. At the 3-10, we've got Jaden Blue. So this is an interesting one. Jaden Blue went to the Cowboys. Now, I don't think he went until round 5, so it's not great draft capital. But the Cowboys was one of the perceived better landing spots for a running back. And Jaden Blue definitely has some fun elements to his game. I mean, there's some holes there, but man, he's one of the most explosive runners in this draft class. Big play waiting to happen. Really, really good pass catching weapon at the running back position. What do you think about Jaden Blue to the Cowboys here?
I think it's a great fit. Like you said, not the highest draft capital, but every time I watched his tape, I was impressed. He's got that quick little twitch, versatile out of the backfield, catching the balls. And so I think what they're trying to do, replacing how they used, what's his name?
Rico Dowdle,
replacing how they used him. I think he kind of fits in that seamless mold, maybe gets a little bit more targets there. And so with only Javonte in his way, I think I think he's going to get some valuable usage early on. Maybe great value here at the 310.
Yeah, fifth round is hard to like totally plant your flag on a fifth round pick, but it's a good spot. An offense that should score a lot of points. Definitely a path to targets, and touches in general. Javonte, I still probably like Javonte a little bit better than Jaden Blue. Maybe I'm still stuck on like pre-injuries Javonte when he was like a really good player, but he's still pretty young. Javonte can run between the tackles. Jaden Blue is not a run between the tackles kind of guy. So maybe they complement each other well, and Dallas kind of rolls that committee out there. Here at the 311, Lewis got Terrence Ferguson. I'm surprised he didn't go earlier than this since he went second round to the Rams. I am going to be honest, I'm totally out on Terrence Ferguson. Even here at the 311, I wouldn't have taken him. I just hated his tape. I did not think he was a very good player. He's a combine darling, and to me, the athleticism didn't translate to the tape. I was shocked he went round 2. I'm not too interested in Terrence Ferguson personally. Sorry, Lewis, not trying to slam your pick here. He went Taylor and Ferguson, 2 guys that I'm just not as big on, but I get it. Like tight end premium, the second round draft capital, all that kind of stuff. I totally get the thought process. And then at the 312, Andy goes with Alec Aomanor, which I think is his highest drafted player so far as NFL draft capital. So, 4th round to the Tennessee Titans. They don't have a lot outside of, outside of Calvin Ridley there. I did think they added Tyler Lockett in the offseason, right?
Yep.
But both of those guys are really old. So if you believe in Aomanor and you like the talent, like he definitely has a path to carve out a long-term role with this team. If you've been following along with the Couch Scouts, we're not the biggest Alec Aomanor people. But the path is definitely there with the Titans. I'll say that much at least. And then here at the 4-1, we got Dylan Sampson. Dylan Sampson obviously went to the same team that Judkins did to the Browns, but he went round 4. And I like Dylan Sampson. What did you think about Dylan Sampson as a prospect?
I liked him a lot. I thought he would get drafted sooner than the 4th round.
I did too.
So I thought that he would kind of show out a little bit more. The landing spot kind of gives me pause just a little bit. I don't know what the plan is in Cleveland, how they're going to deploy both Judkins and Sampson, especially with Ford being there as well. I think it's more of an indictment on Ford, but it'll be interesting to see how he performs, how many touches that offensive coach decides to give him.
Yeah, for sure. Why don't you? I like Dylan Sampson. I love the player. I'll talk more about him in a minute. Why don't you read 4-2 through 4-5? Because I'm on the clock here and I need to look at my rankings for a second.
Yeah, so we have Jordan James going at the 4-2. I picked DJ Giddens. Then we had Torrey Horton at the 4-4, and then at 4-5, Jalen Royals. So while you're making your pick, I was kind of waffling between all 3 players, between Giddens, Horton, and Royals. I really liked Horton's profile, same thing with Royals where they landed, but ultimately I kind of went with Giddens. There's not much in his way to earn that top handcuff role behind Jonathan Taylor. I believe all they have is Khalil Herbert and then Tyler Goodson and Salvin Ahmed. So 5th round draft capital, like you said, isn't the highest, but I think it also they felt the need to draft a running back in the 5th. So I'm interested to see how he produces, and I'm confident he can earn that top tier handcuff role behind Jonathan Taylor.
Okay. Yeah. I do think he's a handcuff to Jonathan Taylor, and I'm totally fine with, grabbing a high end handcuff in round 4. I liked the Royals pick a lot. For me, I'm on the clock. I'm stuck between 2 guys, and I think it's helpful for the listeners to hear me talk it out. Garrett, if you could pause the draft for just a second. We're doing really good on time here. So between Arande Gadsden who went to the Chargers, but he got round 5 draft capital. But I love that spot, and I think, he could be a decent player. Not a huge high upside guy, but a receiving tight end in an offense that, is going to throw the ball a lot with a really good quarterback. But ultimately, I'm going with Woody Marks. So Woody Marks, you can unpause the draft for us now, Garrett. Woody Marks is an older prospect. He's 24 years old. I had him graded as a pretty solid flex option, and he goes to the Texans, where I think he immediately steps into a role as a pass catching back on that team. And is a nice change of pace there to Mixon, who is an older running back anyway. I don't think that Woody Marks is ever going to be like the guy, but I could definitely see a 2 to 3 year window where he's a really usable flex piece, and getting that at the 4th round is great, right? If you can get a guy that for 2 to 3 years is a usable flex piece in PPR leagues, I'm all for that. So I went with Woody Marks there.
I like that pick a lot. I didn't realize that he didn't really have much competition. I also didn't realize that he was still on the board, kind of buried under here.
Yeah, I mean, I think he went round 4, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember if he went. Yeah, round 4, which is pretty solid. I mean, round 4 is kind of like the new round 3 when it comes to running backs, right? NFL teams are waiting a little bit longer on that position, and especially in a loaded draft class like this, there's always going to be guys that get pushed down the board because NFL teams feel like, well, I can wait on it and still get a good player. So all of these running backs that went round 4, I'm still very much in on, especially the ones that went to a good spot. So let's finish out reacting to the draft here. We kind of skipped over the Torrey Horton pick at 4-4. He goes to Seattle. There's obviously, when Kupp moves on, there's an opening to be the wide receiver 2. He went round 5, I think, which is it's a really low hit rate for wide receivers that go that late. And I was never that in on Torrey Horton to begin with. So to me, I would have rather had Jalen Royals, who went a pick later. Jalen Royals to the Chiefs in round 4 is I was expecting him to go day 2, and I really like the player's tape. And obviously there's a lot of mouths there in Kansas City now with Worthy and Rice. But both of those guys could face suspensions at different points, and Royals, I think, is a good player and would have a chance to show something that would give you at least a little bit of a sell window or a production stint. So in round 4, I like Royals round 4. They're all dart throws, but he's a player that I had a 2nd round grade on pre-draft, so I'm fine with that dart throw there at the 4-5.
Yeah, I'm looking through these picks, 4-3, 4-4, 4-5, 4-6. I feel like any of these are worthwhile dart throws. Like you said, aiming for a flex or maybe increase value and flip for a 3rd next year's draft or likewise. But Royals being attached to Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes, I think that name value alone will generate some interest, especially when training camp headlines start popping off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a good player. I think he's a really good player. But so here at the 4-7, we've got Jarquez Hunter, who goes to the Rams. I think he and Blake Corum are competing to be the handcuff to Kyren Williams. And I don't think either of them is going to have any standalone value. So I don't love Jarquez Hunter. I don't hate it. Ty Felton goes, 4-8 goes Dylan Gabriel. Chance to win the quarterback job for the Browns. That's a good dart throw in the 4th round, I think. 3rd round draft capital to a team that really needs a quarterback. That's a good dart throw in the 4th round. Ty Felton at the 4-9. He's kind of buried behind Jefferson and Addison. But a fun young player. If this was a best ball league, like, I love Ty Felton, right? I think of like KJ Osborne a few years ago when he was the 3rd wide receiver there, and he would pop off a couple times a year. You just didn't know when it would be. And I feel like that's probably going to be Ty Felton.
I mean, even Jalen Naylor last year did the same thing, just have random 15, 17-point games. Could be Ty Felton this year.
Yep. All right. So Isaac Tesla goes at 410. He was a third-round pick in the real NFL draft to the Detroit Lions. Obviously, that's a really crowded room. He's somebody we haven't done a rookie guide profile on. He wasn't a guy that we covered pre-draft. So we'll take a little bit of a look and get some information out on him for our post-draft update. But I think he's probably more of a special teams pick. Like they're set at wide receiver with Amon-Ra and Jamison Williams. He might get a few reps out there in 3 wide receiver sets, but overall not a player I think has a ton of fantasy upside because I think they probably drafted him mostly for special teams. Andy says, for my draft, the only thing I really need is tight end. What pick should I move up to from 12 to get either Loveland or Warren? Well, there's no real ADP yet available. The draft just finished. So as far as where Loveland and Warren are likely to go in your draft, I can't really say. For me personally, I have Loveland at 8th in my rankings, but in the same tier with Abuka, who's at 7th. So, I don't think I would, depending on how heavy the tight end premium is, I could see taking him a little bit higher. But in this format with a 1.5 tight end premium, I don't think I would consider taking him over anybody in my top 6. So 7th would be the earliest I would consider trading up for Loveland or Warren. Hope that answers your question. We have 2 interesting picks here to finish out the draft. We've got Brashard Smith at the 411 to the Kansas City Chiefs, which 7th round NFL draft capital. That stinks. But Brashard Smith to the Chiefs is really interesting. I liked Brashard Smith because he's a recently converted wide receiver to the running back position. So I think he's just 20 years old, maybe 21. He's got a ton of room to improve and develop, to get better vision, to put some weight on, because he still has a little bit of that thin wide receiver build, but I think he has the frame to add 10 or 15 more pounds. He's only been playing the position for a year, and he's such a good receiving back. It makes sense for a converted wide receiver. He's explosive. He's fast. He is really an exciting upside player. So to go to the Chiefs and have a chance, they don't have much there. It's him and Pacheco, and I think he complements Pacheco well. And I think Andy Reid knows how to use a player like this, Jerick McKinnon-esque. So I'm very intrigued by Brashard Smith. I love that pick at 411. Andy says, makes sense. Appreciate it. First time on y'all's channel. Wow, great. Glad you found us, man. He says he'll check out the Discord. So, yeah, we have a free Discord. Check the show notes. If you're on Twitter, click our link in the bio on Twitter. But, yeah, totally free. We like getting to know the people that listen to our channel. It's a fun group. Over 200 people in there. We were reacting to the draft the last 3 days. People post their trades. It's a lot of fun. So definitely check out the Discord. And then our last pick here is the 412. And Andy takes Will Howard, who went 5th round, I think. Or was it later than that?
I believe 5th round's correct. I'll look it up.
Okay. Yeah, let me double check. But Will Howard, no, it was 6th round. So not great draft capital at all, which we've already seen. Andy doesn't care about that. But he does go to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think he's the best player on their roster right now at the quarterback position. So Will Howard running an Arthur Smith offense should be pretty amusing. I said in our Discord earlier, he's like a Dollar General brand Ben Roethlisberger. But yeah, Will Howard, we'll see if they sign Aaron Rodgers and all that. But I think present day, he might be the best quarterback on the roster. So that's not a bad dart to throw here at the 412. And yeah, so now we've got the full picture here of the whole draft, and we're only going to take a few more minutes, but I want to, now that we've got the whole picture, does anybody stand out to you as like a really great value pick that, hey, if that's this guy's ADP, I'm going to take him in every league? Anybody stick out as you scan through the draft board here?
Yeah, I think the first name that really sticks out is Jackson Dart at the 2.5. If you can get Dart at the 2.5, I think that's an absolute steal.
Agreed.
He'll be the starting quarterback sooner rather than later, and just being able to take him midway through the second in a super flex league, I think that's unreal value.
Yeah, I love that. I love Abuka at the 110 too. Like I personally have him at 7th in my rankings. So, I think that was a little bit of a value, but I also get it. Like he's in the same tier for me with Warren and Loveland and some of those other guys. So, but I think to get a player of Abuka's caliber at the back of the first round is a real win. I really liked my Arroyo pick. I already mentioned that. Let's see.
I think with Ibuka too, just a quick note on that is if you're taking him at 110, great value, you have to be patient. It's not going to materialize in the first year, but I think patience will be the key there.
Yep. And then one more guy I want to hit on here. We didn't talk about him. We got kind of backlogged. We just mentioned the pick and didn't talk about it. But Bashal Tutin at 3.2, I love that value. Liam Cohen comes over from the Buccaneers, where he just last year in the 4th round got Bucky Irving, gave him every chance to earn his way onto the field and turned Bucky into a fantasy stud. And then he comes over here to Jacksonville, no investment in ETN or big. He goes and gets his guy in the 4th round again, early 4th round, Bashal Tutin. He's super athletic. There's a ton of upside here. Got a little bit of a fumbling issue, but I think he's a good player. I have him graded right on the borderline between a flex option and a fantasy starter. And there's definitely a path there to him becoming the lead back in a high-powered Jacksonville offense that now has Trevor Lawrence, Brian Thomas, and Travis Hunter there. So I think that has a lot of upside at 3.2. I really like that pick there for Chaos. Chaos with a bunch of numbers at the end of it. I think that's our guy Jeremy. So anything else you feel like we need to mention here to wrap up this mock draft?
No, I guess the last closing remark would be on Brashard Smith. The Chiefs have a pretty good hit rate on their 7th round running backs, and
yeah, if there was anybody that it was going to work out with, it would be the Chiefs for sure.
But yeah, that's it.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, if you're listening on the audio feed on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, one of those platforms, and you're like, that was really hard to follow, we are on YouTube and we're live streaming this right now. So if you want to, I should have mentioned this earlier in the broadcast, but if you want to pause the video or pause your Spotify playlist, whatever, and go pull it up on YouTube and see the draft board, you can do that. We'll also, I'm going to make a note now to go and put a link to the sleeper where they can actually look at the draft board on our audio feed in the show notes. So you can click the sleeper link and see the draft board as you're listening to, if you want that. So appreciate you guys listening. If you didn't know, if it's your first time checking out Couch Scouts, we have a website, CouchScouts.com. We have a rookie guide where we covered 73 prospects pre-draft. We're probably going to cover a few more post-draft. We've got rankings color-coded by tier, which again are going to be updated and posted to you guys probably by Monday at the latest. In-depth film breakdowns, film grades. It's a great resource. We do bonus podcasts that are just for members. We have one-on-one consultations where you can sign up and talk to one of our staff for 30 minutes to go over one of your dynasty rosters, which this is a time of year that a lot of people are taking advantage of that because they want to know who should I pick with my picks. And we have a film room too. So Jake is our main film room editor, where if you play in IDP leagues, we've got a bunch of all 22 on IDP guys that got drafted the last couple days, and then Devi. So a bunch of underclassmen. We've got Jeremiah Smith and Arch Manning and Jeremiah Love and a lot of names. So if you play Devi, you'll love that because summer scouting, we got you covered. And if you don't, but you just want to start to get an early look at the 2026 draft class, it's a great resource for that too. So CouchScouts.com. You can sign up for as low as $5 a month or save 15% with an annual subscription. So definitely get in there, get on the action, join our free Discord. And we appreciate you guys listening. Give us a 5-star review on whatever app you're listening on, and we will talk.